Good afternoon. Last November 14, 2023, almost 4,000 contracted employees of Twitter were fired by Elon Musk and Twitter management via email. The platform reported that the terminated contracted employees did not receive prior notice, stating in their email termination letter reprioritization and savings exercise as the reason for the layoffs. According to the Inside Edition, Twitter's New York office was closed and all employee badges, including those who were not fired, were voided. CNN reported all badge access was suspended, as stated in the email, to help ensure the safety of employees and Twitter's systems. According to the platformer, even the managers of the laid-off employees were not notified that their team members were laid off. CNN reports several Twitter employees filed a class action lawsuit alleging that Twitter is in violation of the Federal and California Worker Adjustment and Restraining Notification Act, or WARN Act. According to the WARN Act, employers with more than 100 employees are required to provide 60 days advance written notice prior to a mass layoff. Twitter allegedly failed to give sufficient notice in the case of some of its laid-off employees. The ethical dimension of Elon Musk and Twitter management's decision to lay off contracted employees may be analyzed through several ethical frameworks, namely virtue ethics, deontology, consequentialism, and utilitarianism. As moral agents in this case, Elon Musk and Twitter management failed to practice virtue ethics, particularly its social responsibility to its contracted employees. Based on Canvas video on virtue ethics is defined as the quest to understand a life of moral character, whereby an individual practices honesty, fairness, generosity, and other ethical characteristics such as social responsibility. According to Investopia, social responsibility means that individuals and companies must act in the best interest of their environment and society as a whole. To suddenly remove these people from their source of income without sufficient notice is showing that you don't care about these people. When Elon Musk and Twitter management did not personally talk with the laid-off contracted employees, they exhibited unkindness, callousness, and insensitivity. They did not act in the best interest of their employees and caused all the affected employees grief and apprehension. Remember, when the 4,000 contracted employees were suddenly removed from office, thereby removing their source of income, these are not the only people involved. There is still their respective individual families. So Twitter not only affected 4,000 people, but triple or quadrupled that count, which brings us to the next ethical framework, which is consequentialism and utilitarianism. Consequentialism, which by definition is an ethical theory that judges whether or not something is right by what its consequences are, and utilitarianism, which holds that the most ethical choice is the one that will produce the greatest good for the greatest number. The immediate termination of the 4,000 contracted employees resulted in a mass financial and emotional stress, which is bad. And since the laid-off employees were contractual in nature, they don't get severance pay, which again is bad. And the affected are not just employees, but their families as well, which is a number way greater than 4,000. Another ethical dimension is deontology, which is defined as an ethical theory that uses rules to distinguish right from wrong. When Twitter laid off their 4,000 contracted employees, they violated the WARN Act, which states that employers need to give sufficient notice to the affected employees before layoffs, and since Twitter immediately terminated their contracts, they failed to follow the rule. Most companies lay off employees when the company is experiencing financial dilemma. However, this should be done in a professional, ethical manner. If the ethical reasoning method discussed by Professor Antoinette Palma Angeles was used by Elon Musk and Twitter management, they could have come up with an ethical way of dealing with the dilemma. If they had only taken the time to discuss the proper way to handle the dilemma of terminating the 4,000 contracted employees, thought about the stakeholders in this situation, they could have come up with various ethical alternatives and talked about the possible consequences of each suggestion. They could have come up with the best possible solution. Elon Musk and Twitter could have personally talked to the concerned contracted employees and explained diplomatically the decision to end their contracts. They could have given the contracted employees enough time, 60 days according to the WARN Act, so the employees could have time to look for another job. Or, if Twitter finances could afford it, a 1 or 2 months salary to compensate for the immediate termination of each and every employee. Thank you.